Reading from the Science of Mind magazine daily guides. I read today's reading and I think it's actually pretty good. Not that the others weren't good as well, but I think it's pretty good. However, I've changed it as I am wont to do. If you want to read the original script, it's in the Science of Mind magazine daily guides and it refers strictly to New Thought. However, this is a really cool thing to move out beyond just ideas of New Thought, which would be, for instance, Science of Mind, Unity, Divine Science, and as I said, the Japanese one whose name I forgot, which, yeah, has got several million people involved, but it's a good idea for anybody. And I think, honestly, this is how Ernest Holmes originally intended for his philosophy to be. He didn't intend it to be just restricted for one group of people and then instruct that group of people on how they could better help the world be a better place. I think he intended it for everybody. Well, tell me what you think. This is what it is. It's called A Bold Integration of a New Way. The first quote's from Dr. Gabor Mate, who actually is an Hungarian-Canadian doctor. He looks like he deals primarily with people with more mental related issues, addiction, ADHD, and so on and so forth. He's written a bunch of books. He's written 5, I think, altogether from what I could see online. And it seems like the most famous one is one that's quoted from here, and it's called In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts, Close Encounters with Addiction. Oh my God, hang on one second. There's a cat wants to go. Yes, go. Well, I guess there's at least one person doesn't want to listen to this reading. Anyway, this is what Gabor Mate says. Not the world, not what's outside of us, but what we hold inside us is what traps us. We may not be responsible for the world that created our minds, but we can take responsibility for the mind with which we create our world. As I said, that's from In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts, Close Encounters with Addiction. And you can kind of see where he's coming from with this if you look at the fact that he deals with people with major mental issues, including addiction. Holmes goes back to love. He says, love is the only final security in the universe. Love is the greatest healing power in the universe and the only thing that binds people together in a community of spirit. And that's from Ideas of Power, and it's on page 198, paragraph 2. Reverend Raymond wrote specifically to New Thought once again. I'm changing it. Imagine for a moment what the world could become if we integrated such things as trauma-informed care and treatment with its scope of somatic awareness, bodily awareness, regulation and deregulation techniques, and more. Imagine the depth and breadth of how we could be, the ones of us who have this outgoing philosophy, that is, could be a beneficial, healthy, and holistic movement, whether you're within New Thought or you're out of it. While we may not want to address it, the fact of the matter is there are people who are leaving movements like this due to such things as toxic positivity, minister-centric narcissistic abuses, and more. I'll come back. Maybe I'll come back to this. Then he's saying, as a movement, what do we do? And I would say, as a people who are concerned with the human race and its welfare, what do we do? As an individual, what are you to do? Are you willing to explore ways of gathering beyond such things as a traditional church model? Some of you don't go to church, some of you do. We have a spiritual center. A lot of us call it church. He says, imagine for a moment if what was offered was something that was a blend of hospital, community center, church, university, and retreat center. Imagine if such a place were offered where people's needs are met based on the needs of those people, and not the needs of any minister or leader, any board, or anyone else. Imagine a place where you can come for fellowship, and if that's all, then that is all. A place to learn, and if that is all, then that is all. A place for spiritual or emotional support. And if that is all, then that's all. A place for a more traditional kind of service, if that's what you seek. Imagine adopting a bold approach to give a community what the community truly needs so that each person can then go out and live as powerfully, presently, and divinely as possible. Now, obviously, he wrote that just specifically to the New Thought community, but I thought, no, why limit it? It's bigger than that, because I know I have people watching who A, are not part of the New Thought community, B, they're not spiritual, or at least they don't consider themselves to be, they're not religious, they're humanistic, but this applies to anybody, let's face it. What it's talking about is building organizations that really look to people's true needs and not to start confining them within some rigid framework. It's to move out beyond that. It's to really help people be met where their needs are. I think he's a bit harsh in the way he's condemning some groups. You know, these things such as toxic positivity. In other words, saying everything's okay, there's nothing that's wrong, and denying what actually is. That's toxic positivity. We don't do that. Minister-centric narcissistic abuses and more. I don't see minister-centric narcissism around where I am. Maybe it exists out there. I do know there's been a lot of abuse right across the spectrum, human spectrum, in different organizations, whether it's churches, spiritual centers, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whatever it is. You name it, there's been abuse. But I think the great value of this message is that it's telling us to start looking at what people really need to build a better world. That's what it boils down to. And not to try and give them what we think they want. It's to actually find out what they want and then see if we can supply that. You know, when I do EFT, emotional freedom technique, I do my very best to use my clients' own words. And I tell them that in the sessions, because what one word, say like fear or anger or distraught, means to one person means a different thing to other people. It means one thing to me, but in somebody else's mind, it may have specific connotations. So in other words, I try to find out what the people want, and I don't try and give them what I think they need. And I think that's where the world's gone wrong in a lot of places, that we often try to give people what we think they really need. Parents do this all the time when they say, hey, your job is to go to school and become a great doctor, a great nurse, a great scientist, a great football player of any kind. My football is different than American football, but you know what I mean. In other words, parents often try and channel, and relatives too, they try to channel me into becoming an attorney. I didn't want to become an attorney. Well, I probably did, but I didn't want to be forced into it. And I became an engineer, and then I got involved in law in different ways. But the point I'm making here is that I think that as a human race, we can start looking to find out what people's needs are to make the world a better place. I think it's actually a pretty good reading, especially when you can kind of turn it around and waft away a mosquito. It's that time of the year. Even inside the house, yes, we have mosquitoes. His affirmation that he gives us is, today I willingly and consciously open myself to the many ways we can come together as a community. This can apply to any group of people. Today I willingly and consciously open myself to the many ways we can come together as a community. And I think that's probably a good place to end it for the day. We're having a visit from one of our grandchildren, which is kind of cool. He's bringing his girlfriend along, excuse me. It should be a good evening. He's going to cook. What's he going to cook? We have no earthly idea. But whatever it is, you can rest assured we're going to eat it because, hey, he's gone to the trouble of coming and cooking it. So remember, Reverend Lisa will be on tomorrow at 9 o'clock. I'll be back hopefully at around 5 p.m. tomorrow. I was a little bit late today. So what do you think of these ideas? This would actually have been a good topic for me to bring somebody in and discuss it. So maybe I will. You know, as I said, my goal ultimately is to try and bring somebody in to discuss these with at least once a week. And we'll see how that goes. So we're in voice tomorrow at 9. I'll be back tomorrow at 5. And we'll see you all then. So until then, take care of yourselves and namaste.